You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Naruto Enters Green Lantern, the animated series. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Inside a small seemingly standard Green Lantern battery in the laboratory of one Guardian Ganthet, the light that was meant to be green was glowing, changing between certain lights of green and blue. The ring the Guardian made is active, a giant green whale-like creature said as a blue bird-like creature with a sphere-like center nodded as they looked at a white sphere. The ring is still not complete, it still has not absorbed my energy fully and so far has only your power ion, the blue entity said to the green one. It will have to do for now. Remember the rings are extensions of us, these ones more specifically Adara. Ion said as they looked at the sphere of light dying down showing a white ring. The others themselves will need to add their own power to it if the chosen one meets them. Adara said as most entities could be accessed by certain means, some easy, others not so much. It's probably why our energies were added first, we help each other when most needed. Ion said to Adara as the white ring shot away. In space. So this is how I die, low on chakra, bleeding heavily, and alone. Naruto thought sadly as he drifted through space after his long battle with Kaguya, and before she was fully sealed she teleported him away to what he guessed was a new dimension as Kaguya teleported in between them whenever she teleported. As he drifted out of consciousness he saw a white light and thought his time had come, and soon the light moved to his hand and placed itself on his finger. What the hell, Naruto thought as he looked and saw a white ring which slowly turned green. Naruto Uzumaki, you are worthy, a voice said in Naruto's mind. That ain't Kurama, Naruto thought to himself, listening closely, wondering what he was worthy of. You are more than what you seem, more than just a lantern of a single color, the voice said as the light around Naruto carried him. Few hours later on OA. Naruto woke up and slowly got up, felt his head as he had a headache, and soon felt something strange and saw his hand and entire arm were covered, and soon saw his entire body was covered and saw a mirror nearby. He was wearing a full body suit, the color was mostly green but black was the secondary. The top part was black and had the Green Lantern logo on his chest and back and was also on his shoulders. The palms of his gloved hands were white, he had green pants, and black combat boots. Okay, what the hell, Kurama? Naruto thought loudly. Oh father, give me strength not to kill my one and only friend. Kurama said to Naruto, mentally wanting him to know what exactly was on his mind. The F do you want, Peach, he said, very pissed at being woken up. OSHT. He thought in realization, we're alive, F yes. And wait, where the F are we, he thought to himself loudly. No idea. Naruto thought as he saw a ring on his left finger. SHT, did you get married or did someone propose? Kurama asked, wondering what poor and dumb soul did, and willingly agreed to that with his host. F this. Naruto said as he lifted his hand to take off the ring, but something shot out and blasted a wall. I say keep the ring, and whoever gave it to you must be insane to give you something like that. Kurama said to him. Naruto aimed the ring and waited but soon got hungry, and suddenly a giant bowl of ramen appeared. Oh dear sweet God, Kurama thought to himself as he actually prayed that this was either a nightmare or hell. Ramen. Naruto said as it floated over to him, and not once did he question why it was green, and when he took a bite it shattered. Kurama snickered as that was funny to him. Take it back, this is heaven or a dream come true, he thought as this was the best thing ever. Okay, that's it, where am I and what the hell is this place? Naruto asked, looking around before a fist hit him in the face. This newbie is basic, a giant hulking figure said, standing over Naruto. Name's Kilowog, live it, learn it, and fear it, he said as he dragged Naruto by his foot. Few minutes later. Naruto was given a brief summary as he was being dragged as he was now a Green Lantern, the trainer was an ass, and he was very bored. Make a construct. Kilowog said to him simply. Naruto thought about something he was familiar with and soon a kunai appeared in his hand. You call that a construct? Pathetic. Kilowog said as he smacked Naruto again and made a green sun which Naruto was being ate toward. F this. Naruto thought as he had enough of being F with by gravity. Kilowog was a little impressed as Green Lanterns had difficulty flying close to suns, even average ones, and yet Naruto was fighting his way to get away from it. Let's see how you handle some meteors, kid, he said as he threw large boulders at Naruto. Seeing him do barrel rolls, smart, he thought, as most just tried to turn not use their own momentum. So the rumors are true, we have a human, a superior sounding voice said behind him. Kilowog lost his concentration, making Naruto shoot to the ground and fall before the new arrival. So human, what is your name? The red-skinned man said to him. Where I'm from we have manners, it's impolite to ask for someone's name without giving your own. Naruto said as he got up. Sinestro. Sinestro said to him, actually giving a confident smirk. Naruto Namikaze. Naruto said to him before dodging a small dagger, summoning 2 chakra blades exactly like Asuma's. Better than your other applicants, Kilowog. Sinestro said as he knew skill when he saw it, and that was not luck. Let's try something bigger than small blades, he said, summoning a rapier sword. Well, may as well. Naruto thought to himself, summoning a construct in the shape of Zabuza's sword. Sinestro finally frowned, bit clunky and large, but there is an artisan's touch, he thought, knowing good craftsmanship when he saw it. They soon charged the other. Kilowog watched as he was a warrior using things more along the lines of cannons and guns, but this fight was more personal as he saw the look in their eyes they were craving the next time their blades met. 1 hour later. Sinestro was on his knees before Naruto with the blonde's construct blades at his THRT in an X shape. He tried to create a construct of his own to counter the blades, only for several construct chains to come out of Naruto's back, locking his arms to his sides as they wrapped around him. Then for added measure, 9 construct tails with deadly sharp pointed tips came out of the small of Naruto's back, all poised at Sinestro, while 4 more construct swords appeared in the air around Sinestro, all pointed at him and poised to skewer him with but a mental command. Naruto looked at Sinestro and raised an eyebrow. So do I win? He asks. Kilowog was a little freaked out as he saw Sinestro smile and laugh, something he never thought he'd see. 2 weeks later. CRP. Naruto said as he was living on OA as he explained his origins to the Guardians and even had his mind read and probed about that information, and they believed him then, and soon they gave him many responsibilities since he lived here like Kilowog. Least they took me out of training, he thought, as they took his military/mercenary experience as a way to skip training and was dealing with constant CRP being stalked being one of many annoyances. Are you ever gonna give up? He asked the woman that was his age as she flew closer to him. No, I want my spar, the woman said to him. She was a appealing woman with short black hair who had a sun-burnt skin tone much similar to his own when he was in 6 Paths mode. She had an athletic body but not too lean like his was, and she was not afraid to show it as her lantern outfit was a halter top t-shirt, a glowing circle which was tight and still showy with her large DD cup melons, and her tight pants outlined her firm round peach nicely. Listen, I've beaten you how many times now? Naruto said as she kept asking him for spars, and in every one she lost. It was like dealing with Konohamaru when he was much younger. You beat Sinestro, a great Green Lantern, he even fights on par with his mentor, the woman said to him. As of that explained everything. I swear I hate fame. Naruto said as many Green Lanterns approached him after that for a long list of reasons. So are we gonna spar? The woman asked curiously. Fine, Cat. Naruto said as he called her that for short. Katma Toei smiled as she kinda liked the nickname. 8 years later. Sup, jackass? Naruto said as he looked at his friend Hal. How bad is it? Hal asked him as he always had a good feel of the room. Well, you're an idiot who does idiot things and pisses off around 90% of the Guardians, and you still find a way to F up in spectacular fashions, so yeah, you're screwed. Naruto said as he chuckled as he was so glad he was no longer the one who messed up as it was better to be under the radar. Hal actually seemed to be a little stressed hearing that as it meant things could be bad. Naruto went in as he was allowed to thanks to Ganthet. He watched as Hal tried to put out the fire and thanks to Ganthet it was going better than when Hal opened his mouth. The trial came to a halt as a ring fell to the floor. Naruto kneeled down and picked it up and he could have sworn he saw a red glow around the ring and saw a brief red image. It has begun, Aion said as he saw a small red light appear. Butcher. Adara said as he and Butcher were conflicting existences and knew this would become complicated. How much longer till you are absorbed into the ring? Aion asked as Adara's essence of power was slowly being absorbed from the battery in Ganthet's lab. Too much time, Adara said to his friend. Butcher will be among the hardest to convince. Aion said as Butcher was one of the only emotional spectrum to be conquered and to make matters worse is that Naruto may have to fight him as well. With Naruto. The hell? Naruto said wondering what had just happened as he saw blurs of colors and shapes and was positive he heard voices. 1 hour later. You're going. Kat asked Naruto as he loaded the ship secretly stocking it as Ganthet showed it to Hal and Kilowog and she knew Hal was gonna do his regular stupid thing but Naruto would be right alongside him as even she knew the Guardians were acting like fools. Gotta, Hal and Kilowog are good but we need more than just 2 rings. Naruto said to her as he knew them, but the odds of victory were low if it was just them. I'll hold down the fort. Kat said as she knew they'd need friends on this side of things. Oh, I almost forgot. Here, she said handing him a lantern battery. This yours. Naruto said to her wondering why she was giving him her lantern battery. So you have a piece of me with you. Kat said with a small smile. Naruto took the battery and they stood there both looking like they had something more to say. Oh, this is pathetic. Kurama thought to himself as Naruto and Kat had been doing this for years. I almost miss Kushina and her SHT marriage. He thought as Naruto's parents' romance was even worse than this, especially with Minato being a pansy, peach, which explains why this was happening with Naruto and Kat now. No evil shall escape my sight. Naruto said as Kat smiled at him for the poor joke using their oath as a goodbye. Be safe, Naruto. Kat said as she flew away. I'll try. Naruto said as keeping safe wasn't exactly a promise he could keep. Few minutes later. About time, now let's go. Naruto said seeing Hal arrive along with Kilowog. Now let's get the hell off OA before the Guardians kill us for this dumb dipshit plan, he said as if they were stopped they were royally screwed. Man, this ship is nice. Hal said as Earth ships were great but space ships were even cooler. We're loaded up, me and Ganthet did most of the work, let's go. Naruto said as they went to the piloting deck. Hello Naruto, a small sphere said appearing on the controls. Who is that? Hal asked curiously. The AI. Naruto said as he was sure Ganthet informed them of the ship's capabilities. Well, it's nice to meet you, Aya. Hal said getting a look from Kilowog. AI doesn't make Aya, it pronounces A-I-E-E. Kilowog said to him. Gotta agree with Hal on this one, bud. Naruto said as he activated the engines, he believed any sentient life deserved the same respect as pretty much everyone. With Kat. Kat watched from a distance as the ship left the hangar and wasn't the only one who noticed as the Guardians all flew to it and smiled as they were blasted away when the engine's drive function was activated. With Naruto. Well, we made it. Naruto said, and as much as he hated to admit it, Hal did a good job not blowing it up. Define made it? Kilowog asked as he got up after being tossed and turned like a ragdoll. Listen, we're here and we're able to help, let's start looking for other GLs. Hal said to them as there should have been plenty in this system. You mind doing a scan? Naruto asked her as she was capable of looking for other GLs nearby with her advanced scanners. Position locked onto. Aya said to Naruto. Thank you, Aya. Naruto said as they flew off. 10 minutes later. The hell? Naruto thought to himself as he could have sworn he felt rage emanating from a large source and within himself for a moment. Naruto was not the only one who felt that rage as Kurama looked within the seal to find out what was wrong. What is this? He thought to himself as something was off, and even after Naruto gained a ring the seal seemed off, like there was another presence or presences within it. What have you gotten yourself into this time? He thought, as this seal was made by the Shinigami, a force of nature itself. He was already curious about what this was. Naruto, Hal, and Kilowog made it aboard the planet and heard the explosions. "Let's go," Naruto said as they flew to the location and saw what seemed like lanterns, but were red instead of green. "We got one wounded, 2 enemies. How you charged?" he asked, knowing Hal forgot a lot of the times. Hal actually took the liberty to check his ring and saw he had a low charge. "Hal, rescue Kilowog, back me up," Naruto said as he blasted both of them. "You okay dealing with the beach ball?" he asked Kilowog as Hal saved the wounded GL. "I'll cut you down," the other Red Lantern said to Naruto. "They are breaking our constructs easier than most things," Naruto thought as he saw the beach ball break through Kilowog's shield. "Razor, kill him," the beach ball said to him. "Silence sucks," Razor said as he and Naruto fired upon each other, their beams meeting. Naruto focused, using every last bit of who he was in that clash, and as he fought he felt himself get angry like never before, even with Kurama's raw chakra. "Enough," he said loudly as he had enough of this fight and this feeling he had inside him. "Kilowog, we need to go," he said to his friend in urgency. "We need to put these guys out of commission before flying off," Kilowog said as they'd put down the ship the moment they tried to leave. "Why, I'm staying," Naruto said as his ring glowed brighter than ever before. "Whoa," Kilowog said as that was crazy bright even by lantern standards. "What is this?" Zoc said as he backed up in fear. "What is this?" Razor thought as this light was unlike anything he had seen the rings capable of. "Rasengan," Naruto said as he fired a Rasengan from his ring. It was like an ordinary Rasengan but green and bright, and when it was close to the red lanterns it became large and sent them flying. "We need to go now," he said, knowing the Rasengan was good and powerful, but the rings did everything in their power to protect the wielder from harm, so they had minutes at best before those two got back up. 20 minutes later. What was that large surge in power? Aya asked Naruto as he lied down on a bed. "Yeah man, I saw it from the ship. What was that?" Hal asked as Kilowog helped the wounded GL known as Shire Rev. Naruto sighed as he held out his hand and made a normal Rasengan. "This is chakra, power I can use. I normally don't use it, but we were in a hurry," he said as he had only used his chakra on special occasions like that fight or when he was in a bind. "It may be why I sense multiple energy signatures from your ring," Aya said as she found faint but noticeable traces of different energies coming off Naruto. "Might be my chakra." Naruto thought his chakra had many signatures, him more than most, with his sun mark, Sage Mode, and Kurama's chakra. We can talk about this later. How is he?" Hal asked, curious about Naruto's powers, but was guessing if he kept it secret it was personal and he wanted to keep it secret and would wait till he was ready to share. "Sensors are picking up a drone," Aya said as she presented an image. "How?" Naruto said before he ran to the wheel and began pursuing the drone. "It's a drone, it may as well not be a threat," he said as this system was large. Hal ignored the protests as he fired at the drone and tried to destroy it. Few minutes later. "That was really dumb," Naruto said to Hal as that was an unnecessary risk. "With the drone gone, less issues," Hal said nonchalantly. "He'll be fine, we got time," Kilowog said as he had basic med training, "but he needs a doctor," he said to them as while he did the best he could without professional help he may die, especially since Kilowog was unfamiliar with this species, guessing they were unique to this space. "We're not too far from my home planet," Shire said to them as he got up in slight pain. "Let's go then," Hal said as Shire gave Aya the coordinates. "Alert, we are being hailed," Aya said to them. "Give you 3 guesses," Naruto said to them as ironically 3 of the Guardians were shown. Green Lantern Naruto Namikaze is under strict order of the Guardians. You are to take control of the ship and return it to OA. Appa Ali Apsa said to Naruto. "No. Naruto said, shocking the Guardians, as Naruto was actually almost as reckless as Hal, but he had more tact and did things within reason. A Green Lantern in Forgotten Space was attacked and almost killed. He's right here to prove it, and we are here now. We need to stop these deaths, he said firmly as Shire said his piece. As compelling as this evidence is, Hal Jordan still stole the ship, and so did me and Kilowog. We helped steal the ship and are in this together. One of the Guardians spoke, but Naruto cut them off and fought for the right of his fellow Lanterns. Few minutes later. SHT. Naruto said, noticing a beacon on the ship. Next time we don't play firefight with a drone, he said to Hal, cause I think this qualifies as issues, he said as the Red Lanterns had their exact location. We won't have much time. Kilowog said to them, knowing they were being followed the moment they fought that drone. Naruto would have said something, but he felt something and felt like it was crushing him or trying to drown him, and all he could see was red. You alright, man? Hal asked his friend curiously as he seemed a bit off. I don't know, Naruto said as this presence was vile and pure evil. With Razor. Is Atrocitus smiling? Razor asked, whispering to Zox as they flew to a planet where the beacon broadcasted. Yes, I am Razor. Atrocitus said to him happily. I feel something another, he said with a smirk. What are you talking about, my liege? Razor asked him curiously as Atrocitus was cryptic. Whether intentional or not was up for debate. I can feel it, someone is connecting to Butcher. Atrocitus said as Zox stopped floating and fell, and Razor looked scared out of his wits as everyone knew of that battle between the Butcher and Atrocitus. To hear someone was trying to connect with him was madness. Who are you? He said, completely interested and invested on going to this planet. 1 hour later. Well, we're beyond screwed. Naruto said to them, that thing is a serious threat, he said as he had no way to stop it. Can your chakra do anything? Kilowog asked curiously, wondering if he was powerful enough to do something. Maybe one thing, but we need a backup plan, Naruto said to them as he and Kurama could get it into space no problem, but there were a few things that were preventing him as he'd reveal his trump card to the Red Lanterns, and while powerful he doubted even he could stand up to a corp all on his own. Anyway, we can defuse it, he asked the others. Maybe if I got a look inside. Shire said to them. Let's go then. Hal said, punching his fist into his palm. Few minutes later. How am I breathing? Naruto thought as the closer they got to the machine the heavier the air felt for him, as if the air was literally laced with fire and each breath he took burned his lungs. Kurama was watching with intent as he felt this rage, and as much he hated to admit it, this anger eclipsed anything he could ever put out, and that made him worried. You ready? Hal asked as they were about to make their grand entrance. They rose to the window and saw the two from earlier and a third one, a massive figure as red as his ring in armor, having beady yellow eyes and scarring on the right side of his face. Razor, Zox, take care of that one. Atrocitus said to his subordinates, pointing at Hal. Greetings, he said to Naruto. Naruto knew this was a gamble, but if he kept him talking things would be better. What is the matter, brother? Atrocitus said to Naruto with a smile. We're not family. Naruto said with a glare, as there are only a handful of people he'd call brother. Are we not? I see it in your eyes, your hatred. Atrocitus said, holding out his hand, a red ring going to Naruto. Take it, unleash that rage inside you, kill all who stand in your way, bathe in your enemies, BLD, a deep booming voice said inside Naruto. Naruto's eyes turned red as he saw a red silhouette that was shaping what could only be described as a war beast, and the scent of BLD and heat filling up his nostrils. No, he thought, almost growling. I am not you, he said in defiance, as he was no one's pawn and he would not be fooled. Atrocious frowned, but then saw something incredible. Naruto's green ring absorbed the very red energy that composed his red ring, and soon Naruto's outfit changed as if a cross between red and green lanterns. Oh great, this moron! Aion said as he saw Butcher fully form in the ring. BLD. Butcher said as he looked through Naruto's memory and relished in the BLDLST he felt. Carnage, death, kill, cookies, he called out. How'd we stop him from killing his lanterns again, and someone smack him as he is losing his mind again? Adara asked him curiously and very much annoyed. Aion wasted no time as he struck Butcher, as violence was somehow his calming mechanism. With Naruto. How is this possible? Atrocitus said in shock, looking between the red and green hybrid lantern in front of him and his own ring, which was low on power. I don't know, but ugh to be you. Naruto said as his fingertips became red and green claws and he punched Atrocitus in the face. Naruto, whoa, what happened? Christmas come early? Hal joked but was curious as to why Naruto was red and green. No time for jokes. Naruto said, aiming his ring, firing a beam of red and green energy. Incredible, join the Red Lanterns, Naruto. Atrocitus said to him as he bled slightly from the impact of Naruto's blast, something which admittedly impressed the leader of the Red Lanterns. I'm angry, I admit it, and I'll also admit I have a lot of anger buried deep down in me. Naruto said as he accepted his anger and rage long ago. Atrocitus smiled seeing the red light shine but was shocked about the green light matching it. But I have also accepted it and I have a strong will. Naruto said as the sky was filled with pure green and red light radiating from the blonde lantern. All the green and red lanterns were in awe as they looked to the sky, seeing their respective colors, and awed or shocked by the power output that was being produced by the first ever red and green lantern hybrid. Razor, activate the Liberator. Atrocitus yelled out, flying upward. Don't. Naruto said as it was too late as the planet-destroying weapon was activated. We need to move. Hal said, sending Zox into space. I'll see what I can do. Naruto said as he and Shire went inside. Kid, you may want to take off, there's no time to stop this. Shire said to him as there was no time. Kilowag left to save my people, go help him, I know what I need to do, he said to him, giving him a look of acceptance. Naruto knew that this was a goodbye and a final farewell. You do the corp and your people a great honor, Shire, you are a true and worthy Green Lantern, he said as this was the best thing he could do for man. After Naruto flew out of the chamber, Razor flew inside. It's foolish to stay when there is no hope, Green Lantern. Razor says while creating a red blade of energy from his ring and raising it up in preparation of ending Shire's life. Yeah, we're kinda dumped that way. But there's always hope. I know you're not all bad, so maybe it's time you let others know too. Now it's best you get going, son, I can handle this last part myself. Shire says to Razor. He begins struggling to hold back the laser that will detonate the weapons, as evidenced by his shield construct starting to crack. Razor looks at Shire for a moment before closing his eyes briefly and floating back out of the chamber. However, before he flies away, he brings his left arm to his chest in a sort of salute to Shire and then proceeds to fly off. Moments later, Shire's construct breaks and the laser reaches its destination, and as a bright light fills the room, Shire closes his eyes and thinks of his family as the weapon detonates. From space, large glowing lines begin to appear on the planet as a mighty cracking and rumbling can be heard before the whole planet bursts apart in a massive fiery explosion, sending flame and asteroid-sized chunks of the planet into space. The blast seemingly engulfs Hal, who turns just in time to see the planet blow, but he manages to shield himself at the last minute. Few minutes later. No. Naruto said as he saw the look in Razor's eyes as guilt and wanting to die, seeing that as a way of penance. You get to live, you're not getting the easy way out, he said to him, taking his ring, putting him in a bubble, and the only reason I'm letting you live is because Shire saw good in you, he said as he saw Razor enter after he left and knew he had to be an idiot. If he killed Shire when he entered, they'd all be dead now. As he did this, he turned and saw Kilowog with Hal supporting him and a huge domed construct with the majority of the villagers from Shire's village protectively inside. 1 hour later, planet Shire. Naruto closed his eyes in a moment of silence for Shire, as the man deserved the highest honor and he hoped the next person that got the ring was just as worthy as he was. That he made his way back to the Interceptor as Hal and Kilowog talked with Shire's widow and his daughter about how the elders of the village were naming the new planet they are calling home Shire in honor of the fallen Green Lantern. Next day. I swear that's unnerving. Kilowag said to Naruto as he summoned both red and green lights from his ring. Why can't we do that? He asked as he and Hal tried to do what Naruto said happened with Razor's ring and nothing at all. No idea, maybe I am just more badass than you guys. Naruto joked, still trying out his new ability as he found it to be amazing and it felt right for some reason. Hang your dreams, Puzzer. Kilowog says with a grunt but good-natured grin. Oh God. Hal said as they were receiving another call from the Guardians. Let's keep this secret for now. Naruto said, focusing, losing his red highlights on his body. The others nodded as they respected his privacy. 1 hour later. Thank you. Razor said as he was given tea, as he was hoping Naruto would leave as he sat in front of his cell. Can I ask why you think death is the answer to injustice? Naruto asked, getting no reply. Can I ask you why you follow a leader who kills and murders innocent people for his cause? He asked, still getting no reply. Can I ask how you can serve a man who is clearly like the people that have taken so much from you? He asked him, knowing the look of a man who had suffered a similar if not the same fate as those people, and while that made him a hypocrite in Naruto's mind, he saw he was being taken advantage of. Shut up. Razor said in anger, rising up, getting as close as he could to the shield of his cell as Naruto didn't even flinch when the distance between them was shortened. That pain and guilt will never go away. Naruto said to him simply, but maybe you can do some good to make up for it. He said to him as redemption was available to everyone, they just needed to make the decision to do it. Razor just glared as Naruto walked away, leaving him alone, and in that moment he wept, thinking of how much of a hypocrite he was and how his actions were no better than those he fought against, and that his cause was a farce, a complete lie. Few days later. Naruto was getting weird vibes as they approached the prison, as if something dark and old and there was a witness to it. Finally, a guardian encased in a yellow crystal in a forgotten sector said, "The day has come when I gain my champion," he said with a smile. With Naruto. What is this? Naruto said to himself as Hal and Kilowag left to deliver Razor. What is what? Aya asked Naruto curiously. This place, there is something about it, I don't like. Naruto said as he walked to the exit. Wait to alert the others of me leaving, he said, walking out, and did what he did best and hid among the shadows. 10 minutes later. What is this? Naruto said, picking up a yellow crystal, that feeling he had washing over him much like the rage. He felt being near Atrocitus. Finally, the guardian said as the crystal around him momentarily glowed. With Naruto. Whoa. Naruto said as he fell, as the ground below him caved in and he fell into a cave of yellow crystals that surrounded him and hit his head, which was also cut by a yellow crystal. What the hell? Naruto thought, seeing he was on OA again in his room, but he felt off. Am I red? He thought, seeing his reflection, seeing he was a red lantern, and as he tried to turn green he couldn't. Red Lantern Naruto, you have been summoned, a drone said as it appeared in Naruto's room. Okay, what is happening? Naruto said, stepping outside, and was shocked by what he saw as he gagged as he smelt burning flesh and blood filling the very air to the brim, and when he looked down below he saw corpses, miles and miles of them, all having the Green Lantern symbol and rings. Stand at the ready, men, High Commander Naruto Namikaze has arrived, a guard in red armor said, saluting Naruto. Naruto was shocked that he was being addressed with respect and awe by killers. It made him very ill. But he kept going, reaching what was the Guardian's chambers, and saw a throne of bones and corpses of the Guardians with Atrocitus sitting there. Naruto, thank you for coming. Atrocitus said with a smile as he got up and approached Naruto. The celebration will begin soon, he said to him. The celebration of what? Naruto asked, fearing the answer. The day we conquered OA and took the galaxy for the Red Lanterns. Atrocitus said with a smile of pride. I did this. Naruto said in shock. Yes, your loyalty to our cause was a magnificent achievement. Atrocitus said, sounding proud like a mentor, killing the Guardians, killing your friends, and your love, never a more true demonstration of loyalty, he said, sounding pleased, impressed, and joyful all at the same time. Naruto felt like he swallowed a hard pill hearing that. I killed them, he said as Atrocitus guided him to a room with corpses in various trophy-like states. He saw Kilowag's skull, Hal Jordan's corpse mounted on the wall, and finally he saw Ket, her body somehow in the kneeling position with the top of her body standing straight with a giant hole in her chest where her heart would be. The viciousness you showed her, destroying her still beating heart before her very eyes, never a truer display of loyalty. Atrocitus said, putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder as a proud father would. No. Naruto said before he roared out, and everything around him disappeared as he fell to the floor in the now empty void, crying. Know this feeling Naruto Namikaze, you'll never have to experience it again, you can make your enemies feel it though, make them truly suffer under your power and show them the true meaning of fear, a voice said to Naruto, forget the will and anger, use the power of fear, it said to him booming through his very being. Naruto's suit soon lost its red color and it started gaining a yellow hue and soon felt euphoria and other pleasant emotions as if he was freed of all inhibitions. Screw you, he said wiping away his tears and got up. I'm better than this, he said as he held his ring, the power that's inside me is mine, this power, he said as he looked at the yellow ring in his hand, does not control me. He yelled as he absorbed the yellow energy and his ring shined red, green, and now yellow. You will regret this, boy, I could have given you everything, the guardian said to him, you will fear me and you will serve me, boy, so says Parallax, he said in anger. I am afraid of a lot but not of you. Naruto said as he shattered the illusion like glass, feeling a sense of accomplishment as that was an impressive genjutsu. This one. Adara said as he disliked the emotion of fear. You. Parallax said, seeing the other emotions. Get comfortable. Ion said to him, or Butcher can keep you occupied, he said to him as Butcher was the eager one to jump into disputes. Parallax grumbled in anger and focused on his main body, leaving this spiritual one there. With Naruto. Fear only exists in our thoughts of future. Naruto thought, remembering that quote about fear, and calmed down as he got up and cleaned his wound and got up. We haven't lost and I intend to win this stupid war, he thought, winning one war already. Green Lantern Naruto, Hal has asked me to find you, Aya said as a glowing circuit in the wall. Hey Aya. Naruto said to her, glad to hear a familiar voice. You seem distraught. Aya said to him, picking up something from him. Yeah. Naruto said in admittance as he admitted what he saw shook him to his very core. Are you well? Aya asked him, wondering how he got to this state. I will be. Naruto said to her as that was the truth, as he could only try to be better, there was nothing else he could say or do. 1 week later. Has Naruto been acting odd to you recently? Kilowag asked Hal curiously. Yeah. Hal said as he saw so much baggage in his eyes, he looks like he got as much baggage as Razor, he said to him, able to tell when a man had weight on their soldiers. What happened in that prison? Kilowag said to himself as he wondered what happened to Naruto. In Naruto's room. Naruto looked at his ring summoning the yellow light and remembered what he saw when he saw Parallax and what he lost or could lose. He started summoning up images of everyone he knew and loved, as that was the reason he kept fighting, how and why he got up and still kept going. As Naruto did this, he didn't know Aya was watching him as she became concerned of his lack of movement in the ship and analyzed each construct he did. 1 month later. Oh my god, this may kill me. Naruto said to himself as the ship was currently being sucked into a pinhole, which was a type of black hole. Green Lantern Naruto, what are you doing? Aya asked as she was ready to leave, but Naruto seemed prepared to do something with the battery, which caught her attention. I'm gonna turbocharge the battery. Naruto said as he placed his ring hand inside the core of the battery and the battery turned a bright shade of green. Power at 200% and climbing. Aya said as she felt her own spark glow brighter and stronger, wondering how his ring was able to fuel and literally double the power of the lantern battery. Ion felt a change in Aya and smiled. Be free, my daughter, he thought to himself, focusing his power from the ship's battery, deciding to gift Aya with something. With Hal. Whoa. Hal said as the gravity now felt normal as the ship's tractor beam suspended them and was pulling them back. How is this possible? I thought the ship's beams weren't strong enough. Razor asked as he checked the systems of the ship himself, and they weren't this powerful. Green Lantern Naruto is responsible as he is maximizing the core's power as it is climbing. Aya said over the comms. He could do that this whole time. Kilowag said in surprise as powering the battery with a ring sounded impossible. No idea, but this is awesome. Hal said, thinking this was pretty cool. How is he doing this is my question. Razor said as he was curious as to how this was possible. Long story. Hal said to him as Naruto could speak about his origins on his own time. Few hours later. I wish to assist you in the war. Aya said out of the blue as the crew ate. Aya, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're confined to the ship. Hal said to her, not sure how else to respond. Or other technology. Razor said, reminding him of how Aya freed him on the prison asteroid. No, I wish to take a more active role. Aya said to them. Aya, hate to break this to you, but you don't have a body. Kilowag said as Aya had parts fall from the ceiling and soon her green energy formed slowly as if it were making an actual body. My body's design is based on an amalgamation of various females' traits Naruto made in private. Aya said to them as Naruto shot up. We can do that with our rings? Hal asked, looking at his ring before looking at Naruto. Make constructs of females often, he said to his friend with a teasing grin. Naruto punched Hal in the face, knocking him out. I scanned the females you made and compiled a list of their traits. My face is based on the one you call Samui. My melons are based on those belonging to the one you call Tsunade. My thighs, legs, and curves are based on those of Mei Terumi. My bottom is based on that of the one called Tsum, and my overall height is based on the one called Anko Mitarashi, Aya said as she had F-cup melons, curvy model and fit body, and had a bubbly round peach. Hal, who had only feigned unconsciousness, whistled and looked at Naruto. DMN Naruto, your home has some total babes on it, can I come see it? He asked him. Naruto's eyebrow twitched angrily. Careful Hal, or I might just give Carol a call and tell her what you think of the girls from my home, the blonde said with a Cheshire grin, causing Hal to pale and sweat in fear. She feels real. Kilowag said, poking her skin. I used the excess power Naruto had running through the battery to make this form. I am purely made of biological and technological parts. In other words, I am a synthetic or techno-organic being. Aya said to them. Hey, I need to ask, that are those removable? Hal asked, looking at the armor covering her privates as he was wondering if that was her skin and was removable. The others gave him dry looks but were also curious. Yep, I am definitely giving Carol a call later, Naruto says, looking at Hal. Oh come on, that's not fair. I am willing to bet you are curious as well. Hal says in protest and hoping Naruto buys it. Okay, I admit I am curious, but I have the decency to not just flat out ask Aya such a thing, especially in front of everyone, Naruto said as if it had been any other female of any race Hal would have been dead, but since Aya was still new, for a lack of a better word, he got lucky. My armor is replaceable, but I am organic underneath. Aya said to them. Okay, hold on kid, you may be a living but you don't have a ring. Kilowag said to her as she technically qualified as a civilian. They were interrupted as the lantern battery engine started to hum and shine brightly as soon 10 green lantern rings came out. Did you know about that? Hal asked Kilowag, wondering what rings were doing in the battery. Where are they? Razor was asking till the rings floated to Aya, gently placing themselves on her fingers. I have my rings, Green Lantern. Kilowag, I am a Green Lantern. Aya said to him, this is my fight as well, she said to him in a feminine tone that said she would not back down. Rebellion, love it. Naruto said with a chuckle, she's made up her mind and she has free choice, plus she's right, she's one of us, he said in support of her decision. Me, not a problem as far as I'm concerned, so long as she doesn't go all Skynet/Terminator on us. Hal says with a shrug, not finding an issue with Aya being with them physically so long as it didn't affect her ability to control the Interceptor. Few weeks later. What is he doing? Razor asked as multiple lights were shining through the cracks of Naruto's room. Green Lantern Naruto is training with his lantern powers. Aya's voice says from the ship speakers. I still find it odd that his battery had both powers. Razor said to them as his power battery adapted to the ring itself. Incorrect, he has 3, Aya said to him. You have got to be kidding, how many lantern colors are there? Kilowag asked curiously as this was all new to him. What is the third? Hal asked, wondering what this new color of light was. The third power is error, classified. Aya said to them, looking as if she had a headache. Okay, that's kinda weird. Hal said, raising a brow, are there any similarities to anything we've come across? He asked, using a question to get around. Who classified that information? Kilowog asked with a narrowing of his eyes as finding out who classified the information could be a clue all on its own. The individual who classified the information is error, classified. Aya once again said, clutching her head like Hal or Kilowog did if they drank too much. Answer my question. Hal said to her. We have encountered the power in the prison. Aya said simply as she recalled that much. That yellow stuff. Kilowag said as everyone tensed at that, as it didn't allow their rings to function and gave him weird vibes altogether. Well, that's not ominous or anything. Razor comments with a deadpan expression on his face as they were all tense as the yellow crystal gave them all bad vibes. Is he okay? Hal asked her, wondering if the energy would have any effect on his mind. His vitals are stable and I have detected a nearby Green Lantern ring. Aya said to them. What's everyone doing standing outside my room? Naruto suddenly asks, having opened his door to finding everyone save Aya in front of his room. Wondering what that light show was? Kilowag asked him. Training. Naruto said to him as he walked away. Never thought that word would annoy me. Kilowag said to himself. His life man. Hal said to him as if Naruto said he was fine and he showed no signs of being otherwise, he'd let this go. Don't you think he has too many secrets? Kilowag asked him as he was not one to talk, but ever since they got here Naruto had been rather reclusive. You're questioning him now, what about Razor? Hal asked with a chuckle as Razor sent him a dry look. Listen, Naruto has his secrets, gotta respect that, he said to him. Yeah, but what do we really know about him? Kilowag said to him as he had confided into those he trusted he was the last of his species who weren't already aware. Unknown to them, Razor and Naruto were listening to what they said as he sighed as he knew this day would come. Few days later, planet Betrasses. This place has a real gladiator feel to it. Naruto said in full green as he didn't know how red lanterns were seen here. The lantern was Duloc, right? He asked curiously as they made their way to what was clearly a palace. Yeah, he looks like a good soldier. Kilowag said to them, always liking the more soldier-chosen Green Lanterns as there was always a more understanding element between soldiers who understood battle. They walked in only to have swords pointed at their necks. Naruto wasted no time sending the guards flying. You know we're here to recruit someone and in peace, right? Hal asked him as punching guards didn't convey that message. Is this a coronation? Naruto asked, spotting what appeared to be a queen having a crown placed on her head by two soldiers. The possible queen was an appealing woman with light purple skin and a slightly darker shade of purple hair. She had appealing completely black eyes which caught his attention, low E-cup melons, a model-like curvy body, and a plump heart-shaped peach, all of which is being snugly hugged by the elegant white dress she is wearing. Few minutes later. You know you are a fool. Naruto said to Kothak as he believed the queen needed a king. My leader was a woman, one of the strongest of my world, someone I greatly respect. I just met her and can tell. She'd be a better ruler than you could ever be, he said to him. Iolandi smiled from the praise as she rather liked the boldness Naruto displayed it to their greatest warrior. You dare question our customs, commoner? Kothak said in anger. Technically I have royal BLD, I'd be considered a prince if one thought about it. Naruto said as that was both false and true, as all these people cared about was status, and him being the son of a Kage was basically like being a prince, and that's not even factoring in his mother's Uzumaki side, to which he could possibly be a prince there as well, or the fact that he was the reincarnation of the Sage of Six Paths' youngest son, which technically made him a demigod, or at the very least a prince again. Then there was the whole Hashirama being his past life, which could potentially make him a king. Naruto decided not to think about the technicalities of his potential royalty anymore to save himself a headache. Iolandi raised a brow, thinking if he was a royal he'd be less outspoken, but the way he carried himself spoke of a man who was a soldier much like Kothak, but the air around him was different from all warriors she had seen. It was both welcoming and inviting, but there was an edge that if he was anger, he'd unleash unparalleled amounts of chaos and carnage. Your status holds nothing here, boy. Kothak said to him, having little respect for the young man. Didn't matter if it did. Naruto said to him uncaringly, as he never gave a rat's as about people's negative opinions about him. He wouldn't start now. Enough of your prattle, boy, this is not your business. Kothak said to him, giving up on this farce. Actually it is as I challenge you for the hand of Yolandi. Naruto said to him as he may not know a lot of customs, but he knew one could challenge for the right of marriage in many civilizations. Have you lost your mind? Kilowag said thinking Naruto didn't understand the repercussions about this choice. You have been in space too long with this guy to be thinking straight, he said pointing at Hal wondering if he finally brought Naruto to his level of insanity. Let me guess no ring and whatever weapons we walk in with are legal, right? Naruto asked ignoring Kilowog and getting a nod from Kothak. You are partially correct. You are forbidden from using your power ring but conventional weapons shall be provided for both of us to ensure there is no trickery, Kothak says, correcting Naruto as weapons were handled neutrally. Okay, I can work with that. Naruto said as he took off his ring and tossed it to Hal noticing someone's eyes seemed entirely focused on the ring. The day has ended, you shall have tomorrow to train and the next day will be the match. Kothak said to him thinking 2 days was a fair amount of time to learn customs of their battle and to learn of some of their ways. Okay. Naruto said as he shrugged. Are you sure you are prepared? He is our greatest fighter. Yolandi asked him in concern as Kothak's size did in fact demonstrate his might as no one had been able to match him in the coming years. Oh, don't worry, I guarantee he wouldn't even reach the top 30 on the list of the strongest people I have faced and defeated. Naruto says confidently getting a small smile and chuckle from Yolandi while off to the side Kilowog facepalms and groans. Few hours later. Naruto felt a little free not having his ring as it was nice to get back to basic. He sat on the balcony of his provided room and heard doors open on the room above and saw Yolandi. I've made dumber decisions, he thought walking up the wall and sat in her blind spot, too many thoughts. He asked curiously as she jumped in surprise seeing him nearly resulting in her crown flying off her head and over the balcony to the streets below had she not caught it in time. How did never mind, yes. Yolandi said to him as she held her crown in her hands. The answer is yes, by the way. Naruto said to her, not even looking to meet her gaze. Yes to what? Yolandi asked as he was challenging to read something that was very interesting. You will be a good ruler. Many people think that physical strength is what makes a good ruler, but they are wrong. While strength can be a big help, a ruler must also be smart and compassionate, yet also firm when the situation calls for it. Naruto said with a smile as there was no perfect answer, but there were some great examples Naruto had in the past. You've known me a good few hours, how do you know I'll be a good ruler? Yolandi asked, wondering what his reasoning was and wondering how he could say that to a total stranger. Because you care. Naruto said as his empath powers picked up on many of her feelings, but all of them were directed to her people and not herself. It's okay to be afraid, and by acknowledging that fear, and overcoming it is what it truly means to be he said, drifting off trying to find the right word. A what? Yolandi asked, desperately wanting to know as she clung to every word he spoke. A hero. Naruto said to her as people thought it was all about the suits and powers, but what it truly came down to was doing what was right. Yolandi's eyes widened hearing that and smiled as she appreciated the praise/advice. I'd like to help you train tomorrow, she said with a spark in her eyes as she said it. Naruto merely nodded and dropped down back to his balcony. He's very gallant and handsome. Yolandi thought, walking into her room with a small smile and a blush and not knowing that a small green light followed behind her. Next morning. So this is a joust. Naruto thought as that was how it started, and even then if both fell off their rides they'd engage in melee combat. My best bet is to knock him off his ride, he thought to himself, not thinking he'd get it even with Yolandi's assistance. Are you ready? Yolandi said as she gave Naruto a sword and she took a stance. You seem oddly good at this. Naruto said as he had to admit her stance was good, better even than most practitioners with a blade he knew. Naruto, I'm a princess, not a damsel. Yolandi said to him with a challenging smirk, as she never wanted to be seen as frail when she was a child and learned whatever she could to be seen with respect even amongst men like Kothak. She immediately went on the offensive and charged Naruto, moving both swiftly and efficiently. Naruto had to admit her blade work was exceptional as he had only few he could spar with, Sinestro being one of the best, but Iolandi was just as good as Katma, which was an impressive feat as she was only slightly less skilled with a blade than Boudica, who was almost as skilled as Sinestro. Iolandi saw very little openings as she fought with Naruto, and even when she went for those openings he fought back defending them. 2 hours later. Why can't you be like that? Kilowag asked as he and Hal watched them fight in the coming of Naruto's battle. What sword fight? Hal asked curiously. Be dedicated to training. Kilowag said as he liked Hal and respected him a lot more than he cared to admit, but he had his faults. Hey, I am dedicated to training. Hal protests before seeing the look Kilowag is giving him. Naruto works out, and when he's not doing that he trains his mind. Kilowag said as Naruto was a soldier through and through and he respected various training methods, he himself studied tactics and tracking methods. Iolandi was surprised that Naruto broke her sword and that he stabbed his down into the ground. What next? Naruto asked sheepishly and curiously, getting a giggle from Iolandi. 10 minutes later. This is actually kinda fun. Naruto said as he drove faster and raced Iolandi on a hover bike, which would be what he and Kothak would be using for mounts in their fight tomorrow. Won't be as fun when you lose. Iolandi said as she hadn't lost a match sparring in years, thus it was a little exciting that Naruto was able to beat her in swordsmanship, though she was winning in their hoverbike race so far and enjoying every moment of it. With Razor. Where is the other Green Lantern? Razor asked impatiently, not liking the idea of wasting time. He ain't here. Kilowag asked in surprise. He was supposed to be on board after the celebration, he said, calling him on his ring. I sense his ring is still on the planet, but he is at a completely different location from it. Aya said to him as she checked her scanners. A lantern away from his ring. Razor said as it sounded absurd. With Naruto and Iolandi. The two were still racing on their hoverbikes, having gone away from the Colosseum and now flying over the city. They weaved in and out of the support pillars to an elevated walkway before rising up and traveling along the walkway. Naruto pulled ahead of Iolandi and cheekily smiled at her before doing a little barrel roll, causing her to laugh before pulling ahead of him. You are definitely too fun to be a royal. Iolandi said to him as she laughed wholeheartedly. Wanna try something really cool? Naruto said as they slowed down and stopped somewhere, and he put on his ring and picked up the princess bridal style and flew up. Is it always this freeing? Iolandi asked, looking at the sky and her city below, as despite being able to get a similar view on a hoverbike this seemed different yet better. To be a lantern, she asked him, wondering what the responsibility was like and what type of burden it could be as she had seen it from her people's own lantern. In a way. Naruto said to her, it's a burden at times given the responsibilities that come with the ring, but just being able to help and save people's lives is what makes it all worthwhile, at least in my opinion, he said to her in total honesty. Iolandi was speechless as that was an incredible reason. She rested her head against his shoulders and felt at peace and safe in his arms as he flew them around. She was also touched by how honest he was. Few minutes later. Naruto and Iolandi landed near the hoverbikes and Iolandi was still holding his arm. Naruto was about to say something as he noticed that his bike was moved from where he left it. Move, he said as he turned around, shielding Iolandi while also making a multi-layered construct from all the ring colors he had, acting on instinct as the bike exploded in a fireball, sending shrapnel in every direction. You okay? He asked her. How? Iolandi said as Naruto dropped his shields and looked at the exploded hoverbike. Motion-activated bomb. Naruto said, seeing scraps and pieces from a bomb scattered around mixed in the debris from the bike. This is becoming too dangerous, you need to back out of the challenge. Iolandi said to him as she didn't want him or anyone to die for her. Are you kidding? This just got interesting. Naruto said to her, I'll be fine, he said to her in reassurance, placing a hand on her shoulder, causing her to look at him. Iolandi had no words as someone had just tried to kill him and he just seemed excited. She couldn't tell if that was either bravery or insanity, though whatever it was endearing to her. With Hal. Well, this just got complicated. Hal said as he saw the corpse of Duloc. Someone is clearly targeting you. Razor said as Naruto called him on the comms telling him about the assassination attempt moments ago. Great, a lantern killer. Kilowag said as they did it for various reasons, either a grudge or they wanted the rings or some other crazy reason. He felt especially angry as this lantern was an honorable one and he was on of their own, so it made it personal. We need to be on the lookout, keep an eye out. Hal said to them seriously. Next day. Please, for the love of everything, think this through. Kilowag said as Naruto was dressed in armor and given a sword like Kothak. For the 20th time in the last 30 minutes, Kilowag, I have thought this through. Naruto said, giving his gear a final once-over to make sure everything was set and there weren't any weaknesses/defects given the assassination attempt yesterday. Well, I'll just tell everyone that I tried to stop this and that this is all Hal's fault. Kilowag said, being very serious as he did not want to be in the crosshairs of Katma's fury when she finds out what happened with either Naruto dying or being married to Yolandi. Yeah, sure, whatever. Naruto said as he rode into the arena. You can still back out, human. Kothak said as they stood a good few feet away from the other. Please. Naruto said as he readied himself. I don't quit and I don't run, he said to him as he readied himself. Hey, do you bet on this planet? Hal asked with the queen as he was feeling lucky. We do. Yolandi said as she chuckled as she actually made a personal bet on Naruto to win, which she really hoped he did as she was growing fond of him and the odds against him were pretty high, meaning she would get a sizable payout if he won. Of course she wouldn't keep the winnings for herself and she talked to Naruto earlier wanting to give him half. But they both decided to instead invest in public projects like orphanages and taking care of the less fortunate. Mind spotting me and betting on Naruto? Hal asked her, getting another chuckle and nod from her as she handed him a small handful of gold coins to go place a bet, which he got up and went to do real quick. Come on Naruto, don't be a pusser, take him down. Kilowag said as lots of grog sloshed around in his mouth from the larger tankard in his hand given to him by Yolandi's younger brother Ragnar, who is an avid fanboy of the Green Lanterns. I failed to see the need to scream and shout, Kilowag. Aya said as she was next to him. It's the excitement, don't you want Naruto to win? Kilowag asked her before remembering Aya, while intelligent, was still not used to actual interactions with others or social events. He filled her in seeing as Hal wasn't here. Yes, I longing Naruto to be victorious and be unharmed. Aya said to him, but something inside her wanted to scream and shout over the roaring crowd. Naruto, she said, using her more powerful audio sensors being louder than the crowd. I hope you succeed, she said, then smiling at him, getting a smile and wave from him. Yolandi and the others watched as both men charged each other on their hoverbikes. What the hell? Hal said as Naruto's spear broke Kothak's, literally cutting it in half. Word of advice, never charge a man who splits kunai with kunai, Naruto said as he trained very often, expecting to sometimes fight in equal combat, so he tried to discover strategies on how to increase his odds, so he increased his speed and his strength was comparable to Kothak's, so shattering the man's spear was easy. Though it came at the cost of Naruto's hoverbike, which was damaged by half of Kothak's spear stabbing it after Naruto sliced it. By the gods! Kothak said, getting off his hoverbike seeing as Naruto's was destroyed. We fight like warriors now, he said, drawing his sword, impressed by Naruto's feat and now wanting to fight him on even ground like a true warrior. That's right, Naruto, kick his ass. Hal said as both men clashed, sword striking shields, shield striking swords, or body in some cases, like when Naruto landed a brutal shield bash to Kothak's chest, sending him skidding back, winded. Here you are, Sir Kilowag. Ragnar said as he handed Kilowag a mug. Come on Naruto. Kilowag said, sloshing around his drink and taking another gulp of it. He's not bad. Razor said, hiding in the shadows as he couldn't be seen due to his ring's color not being popular here. He was impressed by Naruto's blade skills as he learned the arts of blades from knives to greatswords. Naruto gripped his shield tightly before repeatedly bashing it in Kothak's face, a loud clank sound heard with every hit. Kothak was momentarily dazed as those were many hits to the face. Naruto did a spin, cutting the sides of his opponent's legs, making Kothak fall to a kneeling position, and Naruto stole his sword and had the blades in a scissor or X shape to Kothak's neck. Yield, he said to him, as having an opponent in a death grip like this was an easy way for one to admit defeat. I yield. Kothak said as he was soundly defeated and accepted that. Yeah. Hal said as he won the bet. I would have gone for the kill. Razor said as it was actually legal to do that in combat of this nature. And I wow dash, Kilowag was saying before he started gasping and choking, clutching at his throat, spilling his grog as he fell to the ground. Everyone from royalty to the lanterns came over in urgent. They watched as Kilowag's ring left him and moved around the short group and floated to Ragnar. Yes. Ragnar said, clutching his ring in awe and excitement. You killed him. Naruto said, holding the mug of grog. Yes, I did it all for this ring. Ragnar said to him, now I will rule Betrasses as is my BRTH right, he said with a crazed grin. Last I checked I won your sister's hand. Naruto said to him as he dealt with this before, and it would ruin him if he disrespected his own people's culture. Fool, that doesn't matter. With this ring I am the most powerful person on this planet and thus its rightful ruler, as it should have been all along. My weak sister would never have what it takes to rule anyway, so take her as your SLV for all I care. Ragnar states, getting a chorus of boos from the crowd who had heard everything he said. That's enough. Naruto said, holding out his hand, summoning his ring, and suited up and punched Rhaegar as his ring disappeared. My ring, what do you do with my ring? Where did it go? Ragnar yells, sounding like a child throwing a temper tantrum. You never had a ring, but I feel she does. Naruto said, looking at Yolandi, you were chosen, don't shy away from that, he said to her, as being chosen by a ring was an honor, as he felt the ring's non-biasness was great as it showed what everyone was capable of. Yolandi opened her necklace and put on her ring, the people speechless from the betrayal of Prince Ragnar and their ruler being a lantern. All hail King Naruto and Queen Yolandi, the crowd cheered for their lantern king and queen. 1 hour later. I'm getting married, so what? Naruto said, thankfully in his suit, as apparently warriors could wear their armor for marriage. Wow. Hal said to him, dude, what are the customs here? He asked him as he learned on the fly when he went on a mission to another planet for an extended PRD of time. I am rather amazed that they managed to have a wedding set up in such a small amount of time. All the information I have come across regarding weddings indicates it takes a significant amount of time to do so. Aya states, finding the efficiency of the setup quite impressive. Royals usually have it set up quick or already set up if there is a challenge for the hand of A to be queen. Kilowag said, hearing and seeing many royal events, and for royalty it was often easier given that weddings happened in their castles, ceremonial grounds, or even rarely grand churches. I have looked for the information you requested, Green Lantern How. Aya said to him, the traditions on Betrasses for man and woman is that they marry either through proposal or winning them through combat, and then after the ceremony is completed the marriage is to be consummated that night or the wedding is rendered null and void, she said as she felt a small twist in her stomach, and after doing a scan there was no physical issue, but her brain and hormonal levels were slightly elevated. Whoa, consummated? Hal asked, holding back a laugh as he was so glad he did not do the duel. It means SEC, grow up, Razor said as he often saw Hal as a child, but he did wonder if he should say anything as SEC was sacred to his people. I had not thought that part through. I also never would have thought my first time would be with a queen, Naruto said to them, getting many looks. Wait, you mean you and Katma never, Hal asked before doing a rather obscene hand gesture causing Razor to smack him on the back of his head, who had enough of his idiocy. Of course not. Kat and I aren't like that, Naruto states rather densely, nearly causing Hal to faceplant, while Kilowog just facepalms as even he can tell that Katma and Naruto are more than friends, but neither realizes it. Kilowog also makes a mental note to place Hal in front of him when Katma finds out about Naruto getting married and having his V-card punched. Are you sure you want this? Kilowog asked him seriously, I mean, do you like her? He asked him as that seemed like the most important thing. Naruto thought back to the past 24 hours and thought it was great to spend time with her and he cared about her well-being and safety. Well, I'm gonna go get married, he said to them as he left. Kilowog then leans over to Aya, make sure to make a note for the record that all of this is Hal's fault, he whispered to her, wanting literal proof, and Aya was as real as it got. Noted, but I must ask about the act of consummation. Aya asked them as she had many references, but wanted a clearer picture. Jordan, you named her so it's your job to give her the talk, as you humans call it, and try and be serious about it. Kilowag said, punching him in the gut as he flew off. I have even less longing to be here, goodbye. Razor said, following Kilowag's lead. Can you please explain Green Lantern how? Aya asked him, her face still looking stoic, but she looked so impressionable and innocent it somewhat killed how alt-hot that could have been the pain from the punch. Really wish we were on Earth. She could look through the internet. Hal thought, thinking that'd be a better teacher as 90% of the internet was SEC anyway. Then again, given some of the messed up stuff regarding SEC on the internet, maybe it was a blessing she couldn't look through it to learn about section. 20 minutes later. Naruto and Yolandi were cheered as they kissed before the people of Betrasses. Well, soldiers, it has been an honor. Kilowag said to them, knowing their deaths were eventually going to happen. What is with you men? Our friend is married, we should be happy for him, Hal said to him as he cheered without a care in the world, something he didn't know if he should pity or envy. You know what, yeah, I keep forgetting you run your DMN moth, so I'm in the clear. Kilowag said as Hal would get himself killed just for speaking when Kat found out. With Yolandi. You are very skilled. Yolandi said as she was afraid he couldn't dance, but he was leading her gracefully. Not my first time dancing. Naruto said as he danced with a number of women back in his world and even improved with each encounter. Not to mention that Tsunade had personally instructed him, feeling he needed to know how to formally dance properly. Yolandi didn't really care as she just melted in his arms as she rested her head on his shoulder, feeling happier and safer than she has ever been before as the two continued to dance. 1 hour later. Yolandi as Naruto was carrying her bridal style to her room. The two had finished their dancing and the rest of the reception quickly passed after that, then all too soon it was time for the married couple to consummate their union. When they made it to the room, Yolandi jumped out of his arms and pushed him down into the bed. I've never thought that I'd find a man like you. Yolandi said to him as she never in her life thought she'd meet someone like Naruto, a man who was strong, passionate, and inspiring while also being incredibly compassionate. I'm a man of many talents. Naruto said to her, sitting on the edge of the bed, but nervous, but felt better as his empath powers felt her own nervousness. And I am a woman of many talents. Yolandi said to him as she moved in front of him with a coy smile before taking several steps back, confusing him slightly. Yolandi began to sway back and forth as she ran her hands up her body, starting from her legs up to her thighs, then her peach, stomach, melons, and finally her hair before holding her arms up in the air. Yolandi began to sway her lower body side to side and twisting them hypnotically. She suddenly spun around, her dress flaring out as she did, giving Naruto a sneak peek of her white panties underneath it before she bends down in a sweeping motion, rolling her peach as she straightens back up. The queen then turns her back to Naruto and begins to shake her peach hypnotically side to side while looking over her shoulder and smiling seductively at the stunned and transfixed man that is her husband. So these are the dancing lessons you were taught? Naruto asks, watching Yolandi dance seductively in front of him. No, I was only taught formal dancing. This I taught myself for when I met my husband and we had our wedding night, Yolandi says with a sultry smile. I've loved dancing, which is what led me to weapons training. It's another form of dance, she said as she continued her dance. She reached behind her neck to where her dress ties were and pulled them. Slowly her dress began falling to the floor, leaving her in a pair of matching white panties as she continued her dance. Naruto watched as she faced him before bending down, her hands slowly trailing her legs up to her thigh to her stomach, slowly turning around, lowering the upper half of her body, pushing her peach out as she played with her panties at both ends. CRP, my wife has the dancing skills of STRPR. Wait, why is that a bad thing? He thought to himself, feeling like the luckiest BSTRD ever as he was really enjoying her dancing. Glad to know my husband likes how I dance. Yolandi said as she walked to him and got on top of him and pressed her melons against his face. You won these, she said to him as she undid her BR, letting it fall on his lap as she kissed him, rubbing her melons against him, and soon began kissing down, going down his chest and abdomens before stopping at the part of his suit by his PP. Do you mind? She asked, and soon got more than what she could have asked for as the moment Naruto opened up that part of his lantern suit, Yolandi was smacked. In the face, she marveled at his PP in awe and slight SXL fear. "My king, you never told me you had such a mighty sword," she said, rubbing it a bit, making it harder than it already was after watching her dance. "A mighty weapon that needs to be put inside of you," Naruto said to her as his PP twitched in excitement in her soft hand, and he really wanted to enter her. The blonde was internally thanking Jiraiya's pervness as being dragged around to what must have been every hostess bar and sometimes BRTHL during their travels, and having a few discussions with women who talked and flirted with him had resulted in the blonde unknowingly picking up on some of the language used in lovemaking. Yolandi was amazed by that remark as her panties gained a wet spot of arousal, as she had never been talked to that way before given her status as a princess and now as a queen. She then kneeled down in front of him as she continued to work his now completely 12 and long 5 in diameter PP. "How much do you want this, Yolandi?" Naruto asked teasingly as she started kissing his PP. Yolandi looked him dead in the eyes before giving his PP a long kiss. "Very much, my king," she answered lovingly. As the last 2 days had been the best and most bumpy of her life, it was certainly an interesting development. She saw so much of Naruto, it was like these 2 days were a lifetime, as they were so open with one another. There were no walls, no barriers, nothing between them. "I love you, Yolandi," Naruto said, reaching down and caressing the side of her head, which she leaned into as she continued peppering his PP with kisses. It had been he didn't even know, as all his life he had been lacking in love, especially the romantic kind, as he never experienced it but always desired it. He had been planning on giving a relationship with Hinata a try after the war was over, but that crumbled when she died, shielding him from one of the Shinjus with spear attacks, much like how Niji had done, saving both of them previously. "And I love you," Yolandi said back, speaking the complete truth, as despite the rush to their relationship she could feel it was true. Their love now expressed, both knew and felt that it was time to express their love physically. Yolandi grabbed her panties and discarded them, leaving her bare, and Naruto focused his ring and removed his clothing underneath, leaving him as naked as her. Yolandi got back on her knees and fully took Naruto into her mouth, often hearing the more RTC female servants talking about their love lives, so she eavesdropped and blushed by what she heard and tried to read certain detailed romances, and often wanted to try the things she had heard and read, and being with Naruto was her opportunity. Yolandi started with the head of Naruto's PP as she placed kisses down the length of it until she reached his full ball, which she gave a few experimental licks to, which sent a shiver up Naruto's spine and caused him to let out a slight mm. Seeing this, Yolandi gave his ball a few more licks before taking them into her mouth and eating on them, which caused her husband to shiver and some more. "Ah, Yolandi, that feels amazing," Naruto says, throwing his head back slightly with a mm. Yolandi gives Naruto's ball one last intense SCK before releasing them with a popping sound. "We are only just getting started, dear husband," she says with a CC smirk before she opens her mouth wide and begins sliding it down Naruto's PP. In by ink, Naruto fists the sheets of the bed as Yolandi's tight wet mouth descends deeper and deeper down his PP, her tongue doing the underside of it as she goes. Naruto unclenched his fists before moving them to the back of Yolandi's head, weaving his wingers through her, gently placed his hands on her head, wanting her to take more of his PP, wanting her to take more of him. Yolandi as she took more of Naruto's PP, wanting to take his whole PP all the way to his base. "It tastes amazing," she thought to herself, as she loved how salty it tasted and how firm and strong it was, along with his very masculine scent, which filled her nostrils and excited her even more. Eventually she reached the base of Naruto's mighty PP, surprising both herself and the blonde, as his PP was nestled firmly part way down her, which was visible by how her THRT bulged noticeably. "I am thankful my people don't have a GG reflex," the queen thought to herself as she started to bob her head up and down on the PP in her mouth, eating and liking it as she went up and liking it as she went back down. The sheer pleasure of this new experience had Naruto matching her bobs with his THRSTS, as whenever she would go up his hips would instinctively go down, and whenever she went down they would instinctively go up, helping her take his PP even deeper down her THRT. For the next several minutes the newly married couple followed that rhythm, the only sounds made being those of Naruto's at the intense suction, wetness, warmth, and tightness of Yolandi's mouth and through, along with the sounds of his hips and ball hitting Yolandi's face or chin in the latter case, along with the occasional GG as she was pushing herself to her limit, taking him as deep as she could. The symphony of their love was eventually interrupted as Naruto felt his CLMX approaching fast due to the intense attention she was giving his PP. Yolandi, I am almost there, Naruto says with a groan. However, instead of slowing down, Yolandi instead sped up her eating and liking, causing Naruto's eyes to widen. Here it leaks, he yells, tightening his grip on her hair and head as he pulls her head fully down his PP, burying her nose in his PP as his juices erupts from his pages. It passes over her taste buds, setting them alight as the taste is simply divine to her before it goes sailing down her through. The sheer amount that he was releasing was mind-boggling to her, as it just seemed to keep coming and coming with no end in sight, and each spurt was just as big and thick as the last. For nearly 2 minutes they repeated this cycl of Naruto's juices filling Yolandi's mouth and her gulping it down as best she could. Finally Naruto's CLMX ended and he released his grip on Yolandi, allowing her to slide her mouth up his PP, eating the whole way. When she reached the head, she gave a final extremely hard SCK, making sure she got all the leftover juices that may be hiding before removing her mouth with another pop. Yolandi was breathing heavily from the intense eating and blushed when she noticed that there was a considerable wet spot on the floor underneath her PP. I hope you're ready, Naruto, as it's my turn now, she said confidently, looking back up at Naruto before pushing him back slightly, causing him to fall on his back on the bed. As she crawled up his fit and toned body, kissing his abs, chest, and neck before fully kissing him briefly. The queen then brought herself to a kneeling position, framing Naruto's head with her legs and her dripping wet PP ink above his mouth. Feast upon my PP, my king, she says, gently lowering her lower lips to Naruto's lips. Yolandi brought her hands down to Naruto's hair, gripping it tightly as she began to lightly grind her PP against Naruto's mouth as he started to feast upon it. She felt him begin by tracing his tongue around her outer lips, occasionally giving it a light playful bite with his teeth, sending a jolt up her body every time he did. Naruto then moved his feast to the inner part of Yolandi's PP, sending another jolt of pleasure up her body as his tongue wiggled into her, penetrating the untouched pages. It moved against her walls, tasting the sweet nectar that coated them and feeling every fold that made up the walls with his tongue, sending more and more pleasure shooting through Yolandi's body as she in rapture from atop his face, leaking more and more nectar onto him, which he devoured like a man stranded in the desert coming across an oasis. Over and over he liked her PP, driving her closer and closer to the orgasmic cliff as his tongue plundered her depths. Feeling her walls grow tighter and tighter on his adventuring tongue when he suddenly pulled it from her depths, shocking her. Looking down at her husband at being denied her release, Yolandi noticed the mirth in them. She opened her mouth to ask him why he stopped when a mind-blowing amount of pleasure hit her, causing her legs to tightly grip the sides of Naruto's head and her grip on his hair to tighten even more. Her mouth hung open in a silent scream of orgasmic bliss as her nectar flooded out of her, soaking Naruto's face as he removed his teeth from where they were lightly clamped on Yolandi's pleasure button. The queen's peach subconsciously grinded into her king's face, hoping to prolong the euphoric pleasure coursing through every synapse of her brain and every nerve in her body. Recovering from her orgasm, Yolandi slid her way down Naruto back down to his pages. The queen looked up at her husband's face soaked in her juices and blushed in embarrassment at the sheer amount of love nectar she had released upon him. Bringing her face up to his, she began to kiss and lick it, cleaning it of her juices before she was pulled into an intense lip lock as her husband plundered her mouth with his tongue. She tasted her own juices mixed with his saliva, causing her to into the kiss as her own tongue battled with his. Breaking from the lip lock with a gasp and flushed face, Yolandi being rubbing his PP between her PP lips, lubing it up. I hope you enjoy this, my king, she said as she felt his PP slip right inside her PP, spreading her extremely tight walls to fit his mighty and girthy sword. The queen's mind was a haze of pleasure and a small amount of pain from him being pierced by his sword, though even then the pain quickly subsided, being replaced by even more pleasure. I am complete, the queen thought in total bliss as the sword of the only man who would ever touch her for the rest of her life, her co-ruler, the father to her future children, bottomed out inside her, resting snugly against the door to her most inner and sacred chamber. Naruto grabbed her by her peach and massaged her peach. I will enjoy you very much, my queen, he said, kissing her neck before kissing her melons, making her loudly as she started bouncing up and down on his PP. Her movements aided by Naruto's hands as he also lightly thrusts his own hips to meet hers as they leaked down his PP, tightly gripped by her sheath, repeatedly striking up against door to her sacred chamber. Yolandi was very sensitive with his PP and her PP, and Naruto playing with her peach, kissing her, and eating on her tips was a little much on her, as she was unused to this attention to her body, though she continued her movements, placing her hands on Naruto's broad muscular chest to herself bounce even hard and faster on his pole. "Whenever I am here we will be doing this as much as possible," Naruto said, separating from the BRST he was eating before resuming his eat on her other BRST, tracing his tongue around her kitty while eating and giving little nips to her NPL. "All you have to do is ask my king," Yolandi said as she bounced on his PP. "I will handle all your needs my love, ask and it shall be done," she said to him in total honesty, as if Naruto asked her she'd most definitely do it, and louder as she felt Naruto slam into her as she bounced on his PP. "I swear we are not leaving this room until at least mid-morning," Naruto said as he was enjoying this very much and fully intended to stay in this room till they were exhausted, their hips shattered, covered in each other's SXL juices, and Yolandi filled so full of his juices that she would look as if she was in the first couple months of PRGNNCY with his child. The thought of his wife's firm and taut belly expanding outwards as their child or children grow within. The safety of her WMB painted an appealing picture in his mind and excited him even more, causing him to move up harder to meet her downward THRSTS. Yolandi from that comment as she climaxed, and louder as Naruto F her even as she climaxed, making her ride it out before he put his whole PP in her and shot his hot juices into her, and she feeling herself get stuffed. "He's still hard," she thought in amazement, disbelief, and excitement as her walls were clamping down on his PP, still not feeling him weaken even after leaking into her. "Wait," she said as he started thrusting into her again, still feeling raw after that. "Sorry my queen, but I want more after that, and the night is still very young," Naruto said as he pulled her into a kiss, invading her mood, dominating with his tongue. Yolandi cried, and is sheer bliss and pleasure as Naruto kept her PP, not showing it any mercy as he made it remember the shape of his PP, but even through all of that Naruto made her feel complete and definitely full and loved. Her mind was also becoming heavy and hazy due to her lust, thus becoming very cloudy, though she fought through the haze, not wanting this pleasure to end. Suddenly Yolandi's world was flipped as Naruto twisted them around so that her back was on the bed and he was above her, all the while he kept up his thirsting during the whole movement. The two stayed like that for a bit, staring lovingly into each other's eyes while occasionally sharing love-filled kisses as Naruto's sword repeatedly sheathed itself inside Yolandi's warm and wet sheath. Yolandi brought her arms to wrap around her lover's neck, pulling his head down to her, but instead of kissing her, Naruto began eating and kissing the side of her neck, causing her to shiver in excitement and wrap her legs around his thirsting hips, pulling him deeper. However, Naruto suddenly removed her legs from around his waist and her arms from around his neck before leaning up away from her. This action confused Yolandi before she was suddenly grabbed on her peach and lifted up, all while Naruto continued his thirsting, piercing her depths even deeper and almost breaching into her CRVX. Though they didn't spend long in this position, as Yolandi was soon spun around before being set down on the bed on her hands and knees. "Are you ready for the final round of the night, my queen?" Naruto whispers into her ear as he leans down against her back, his hands resting firmly on her peach. "Yes, my beloved king, let this be the greatest end to the first night of our future together as husband and wife." Yolandi answered as suddenly there were construct restraints on her wrists, which soon had chain connect to it behind her body before her chain shrunk, making her hands be tied behind her back, and soon some restraints appeared on her ankles, and instead of binding her legs they were separating, making her PP be on full display. "Not my ring, my queen," Naruto said to her with a smile, showing it to her as she could see it not glowing. Yolandi looked behind her and saw her ring glowing, and she blushed as she realized what this meant, and so did her king. She felt even more embarrassed when a BLLGG appeared in her mouth. Naruto then grabbed her close and whispered into her ear, "I want to hear my wife CCMM, he said to her. Yolandi as the GG disappeared, and in its place was a collar on her neck that then gained a chain connecting to her wrist restraints, the chain being small and pulling on her back. Naruto then moved his hands to the bindings on her hands and used them as a hand hold as he resumed his thrusting into her tunnel. He timed his THRSTS so that whenever he thrusted in he would pull back on her bound arms, resulting in his PP slamming into her fiercely and banging against her CRVX, causing her arch back on her knees, thrusting her chest out and sending her melon sailing up towards her chin. Yolandi felt weak and vulnerable as she was at his mercy even more so than before as Naruto F her. However, despite this, she also felt completely safe in Naruto's embrace, knowing he would never truly hurt her. He's gonna leave me a mess, she thought in bliss, not just thinking about this time but all the times in the future. Suddenly Yolandi was snapped out of her train of thought when she felt a pair of hands massaging her melons and tweaking her tips. Yet at the same time she could feel another hand rubbing her button of love, and she screamed as she had another explosive CLMX and panted in lust and exhaustion as Naruto was making her leak so much she felt dehydrated. Looking back, she saw Naruto with his hands still holding her bound arms. However, she saw his ring glowing, and upon looking back in front of her she saw a pair of green construct hands on her melons while another was down at her PP rubbing and occasionally pinching her CLT. Will need to recharge after these activities, she thought, as the rings were adding increased incentive to SXL activities. Get ready my queen, as we are about to kick this final round into high gear, her blonde husband says, causing Yolandi to shiver in pleasure as he did just that, and all she could do was just in pleasure-filled bliss, not that she would want to do anything else. For the next several hours the two continued the consummation of their union, feeling utter bliss and pleasure filled with love. Yolandi/Naruto. The two yelled at the same time as Naruto thrusted his mighty sword one final time, finally piercing her last barricade and entering her sacred inner chamber, where he began emptying his juices. This in turn setting of Yolandi's final explosive CLMX as her nectar squirted out of her. The two stayed like this for several minutes, just reveling in their respective and joined climaxes. As the king finally finished barraging his queen's inner sanctuary with his countless mini-soldiers, the constructs the two were using finally faded. Naruto caught Yolandi before she could fall face first onto the bed due to her arms having given out from a combination of exhaustion and pleasure. He then shifted so that he was sitting on his knees before spinning them around so that he was laying on the bed. Next the blonde spun Yolandi around so that she was facing him and let her fall forward onto his chest, her melon squishing against his chiseled pectorals. The queen, tired yet beyond satisfied, looked up at her husband and gave him a quick peck on the lips before resting her head next to his in the crook of his neck. Naruto simply smiled at his wife's action before racing over and grabbing a blanket, throwing it over them as he too started to drift off to sleep. The newlywed king and queen feel asleep in each other's embrace, feeling safe and content. Their dreams were filled with possible future events together, all the while they remained connected at the hip, the king's mighty sword tucked firmly in the queen's sheath. Next morning, Yolandi felt weak as she opened up her eyes, her body feeling wave after wave with pleasure, and smiled seeing she was sleeping on top of Naruto, feeling his PP still inside her, and as she pulled away letting out a whiny feeling empty without it in her and a gush of Naruto's juices pouring out her PP. If we keep doing this we'll have an heir, she thought, liking the thought, so she brought her hand down to her PP to block her mighty king's juices from leaking out. While she was loving the thought of the future attempts to conceive an heir, it can't hurt to tip the odds in their favor for the current attempt. After all, no one ever said we can only have one heir, she thought. With a smile as she pictured her and Naruto surrounded by a number of children sharing their features. I still have some time before I go, Naruto stated, pulling her down, kissing her head, and alerting her to the fact that he was awake. Yolandi saw his PP stand tall and ready. I won't be a queen in this bed if you keep having your way with me, she said, kissing his chest as she jacked him off. I may as well be your wear, she said, seductively, wanting him to use her body as the night they shared was perfect. She wanted to always feel that way with him. You certainly danced like one last night, Naruto said teasingly, seeing her blush, and I guarantee it will get better, he said to her. With a lot of practice, he said to her. Yolandi could only at the thought of how this could get better, but chose reason over pleasure this time. While the queen's spirit would love for her king to deliver upon her indescribable pleasure again and again like he did last night, sadly the queen's body needs to rest right now, she said with an appealing smile. Well, I guess I can settle for this and give my queen a preview on what her king shall plunder next time, Naruto said as he began to rub her peach at an incredibly fast pace with his middle finger, making her loudly, and screamed as she bucked and rocked her peach, climaxing as he added his index finger as well. Next time, he said as he was still fingering her peach, there will be more than just my fingers in here, he said, making her scream in bliss from her CLMX as he removed his fingers. Yolandi panted, unable to move as her body was not ready for that. I either need to prepare or pray that he goes easy, she thought, thinking about her peach and how her husband will conquer and claim it next time. 1 hour later. Naruto and Yolandi kissed before the Interceptor, saying their final goodbyes. I'll always be a phone call away, Naruto said, holding up his ring. Likewise, Yolandi said to him with love, be safe Naruto, and be as strong as I know you are, she said, knowing his strength in spirit was unmatched. I will, Naruto said to her, kissing her hand. I swear I may lose my lunch, Razor said with a disgusted look on his face. PSS off, Naruto said to him, his ring shining red, daring him to say anything. I swear man, I am jealous, Hal said as Naruto was radiating happiness despite his current rage he was demonstrating. And I am relaxed, Naruto said to him as he lost his red glow. I have noticed a decrease in Green Lantern Naruto's stress. May I ask what the cause of this was? Aya asked Naruto curiously. All the men on the ship went deathly silent, not knowing how to explain that to their female crewmate. Sensing tension, Aya said, as that made it more awkward as the men thought about the word tension in a completely different way. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author pyrohelixdrago on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.